we were really blessed again because all of our seeds were donated to us from Washington State, and that was an amazing gift. In October, a box came from Washington. Paul had given some potatoes for seed, and Justin had given us a bag full, 4 types, I think, of garlic, and we immediately, in the fall, planted the potatoes and the garlic.
Typically it would freeze at the depth that it was planted, but the wood chips kept it warmer, it kept it insulated. Almost every single one of them came up. So yeah, it worked. When we were planting the garden and while things were germinating and coming up, it was so exciting to see these plants come up, because it's like we are going to have a garden full. We're going to have a produce department full of harvest.
Else, yes.
Yeah, we're going to give vegetables all over the community. And as time went on, it was a little bit discouraging because things came up and then they stopped growing. And I didn't know why. So that's when I put the fertilizer on. And they grew a little bit more, but then they stopped growing and actually went to seed. And the reason for that was because we were growing in the wood chips instead of in the soil underneath. And we can tell in the places in our garden where the plants, the roots actually got into the soil versus stayed in the wood chips. Because where they got into the soil, the plants did remarkably better. It didn't take very long before we realized we needed to do some fertilizing. One of the organic materials that's the best for nitrogen and for fertilization with wood chips is dried blood. And so we put a couple of 17-pound bags on at different times. And that did remarkable things for the plants. The dried blood worked better than anything for organic nitrogen fertilizer. As far as this garden, I think what we would have done differently would have been just to put about 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches of wood chips down, and then part the chips and plant in the ground beneath the wood chips. And that soil really does get prepared pretty quickly by the wood chips. It softens the ground up pretty quickly. When I moved the wood chips off in one area, I just took my finger and I began to dig. And in no time, I was down 2 inches really easily. And then in the yard, just off the wood chips, I started to try to dig, and I was, really stressing my finger to even break the grass, let alone break the soil. So it really does make a big difference. We have a friend that offered, they have half an acre between their house and the neighbor's house that it's just empty. There's nothing on it at all. All they do is mow it. So he offered it if we wanted to have a garden there, or anyone else wanted to have a garden there, I have wood chips delivered there, that would be a site that we could do. So we set up another garden there, and the first thing we did, of course, was check for the thistles, and it has been mowed all along, and there were no thistles, so we put the paper down. Then we put about 2 or 3 inches of mushroom soil down on top of the paper. And then once the mushroom soil was down, we put about 3 or 4 inches of wood chips, somewhat composted wood chips, on top of the mushroom soil. And then over that, a dusting of less than an inch or less of cow manure that had been composted. And then that was all that we put on that. Newspaper, and then mushroom soil, about 3 or 4 inches, and then 3 or 4 inches of wood chips, and then just a dusting of an inch or less of cow manure on top of that. And when we got done, we felt really good about this garden is done correctly. It's got the nutrients, it's got the soil that it needs, and then 3 days later we planted seeds. And here it is, a week later, they've all come up, everything is germinated, and we have things growing. And so Father's Day, best Father's Day of my life, we planted the new garden. When we planted in that garden, we moved the wood chips out of the way. We did not plant in the wood chips. We planted in the mushroom soil that had the nutrients and used the wood chips as the covering. When you plant in the soil and they get big enough, then you side dress them with the wood chips. So that's what we'll be doing when they get big enough. So it's looking really good. It's growing really well.
Something that I think it's too, and more about, that honestly really is about the garden. I think it is to take kids back for a generation. I do think away from video games, away from TV, away from sitting, take them back into nature, because God does display himself in nature. You cannot look at a seed and see the miracle of something coming out of it. We watched as the beans were coming through the ground, and the seed was still on the sides, and the little green plant was coming out through the middle, and we watched it in amazement. And you cannot not have a lesson about God at that moment for a generation. Just to see God. I mean, that's why I believe God started Adam and Eve in a garden.
We're back to
Eden Organic Garden.
I'm Johnny and I'm 5 years old.
My name is Hannah McComber and I'm 9 years old.
I'm Natalie and I'm 7 years old.
And we are the Kids Garden Patrol. We've learned that ladybugs are, actually they eat other bugs and they're good for gardens.
Whoa.
What did you find?
Ladybug.
What's your favorite bug?
Ladybug.
Why is ladybugs your favorite bug?
I don't know.
Because what do they do in the garden?
They eat the other bugs. Whoa.
There she goes.
And these are bad for gardens. They eat the leaves.
Why do they eat the plants?
Because they're hungry, I guess. Get off of there.
There's a fat one.
What I like about this garden is that whenever you're weeding, it's very easy to weed. All you have to do is just pull it out and it usually just comes out, all the roots and everything. And we have friends where they had a garden and it wasn't with wood chips or anything, and they tilled the soil and stuff, and it was really hard to pull their weeds out. You hardly could pull them out at all. And I think that's cool that I can pull the weeds out really easily.
I wish that all children could learn how to do a garden and teach their children when they get older. I like coming to the garden. I like coming to the garden too.
I like coming to the garden as well. We like doing it together. Bye!
I think that for the future, I mean, absolutely, the health benefits of eating what comes out of the garden is going to be immeasurable. But also, I think that times aren't going to get easier, they're going to get harder. And I really feel like the Lord has released this now, worldwide, Woodchip Gardening, in order to be able to provide for people that don't have the ability to do traditional gardening. They don't have the equipment, maybe they don't have the space, they don't have the understanding of how to do traditional gardening. And you can just lay down some wood chips this year, and if it turns out that it's 10 years down the road that you need to be able to grow your own food, like in the days of the Great Depression, then your garden is ready. And I really feel like that's a major aspect of the Lord releasing this at this time. He's released it in enough time for people to get things ready that they need to get ready. Don't have to be in a panic about it, but to be intentional about it and to do it.
Some of the spiritual lessons I think that we learned from doing the garden, or at least that I learned, was that God always speaks to you in the garden. It's amazing, the dialogue. And also being patient. The garden, I think, just teaches that amazingly. And to trust the Lord in the fullness of time. The fullness of time He brings forth His glory, His beauty. Fun lessons like the seeds, to trust, even when you're planting them. One of the first dialogues I felt like the Lord had with me with the seeds was that they might not all germinate, but you still plant and just trust Him. There was beauty in that for me, with even just the spiritual connection with that, was we live our lives. We just plant and He does the rest.
I think one of the main things that I've learned from the garden was that, you know, we really did receive a seed from the Lord about Woodchip Gardening, the covering, and was very excited about it, and then wanted to just move on it quickly, and having to have patience to wait on His timing as to where it's going to be, how it's going to be, and then, you know, things coming up. He plants the seeds, but the things come forth in His time. And He's put the seed in us with this, and things have come forth only in His time. You can't force it. And every time have tried to make something happen, like getting wood chips or getting a vehicle or equipment to move the wood chips, it's just, you have to wait on the Lord, because it's His time, and He made such an emphasis over that it became so clear that if you're working too hard, you know you've stepped out of His rest. So just let Him do it. He puts the seed, it'll come forth.
I always come back to, I love that statement of Jesus, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and come learn of me. My yoke is easy, my burden is light." And I find that if I'm doing something that's stressing me out and getting a lot of work, I realize this is not God. This is not how He does things. And I just love my harvesting approaches. Whenever I get around to it, I do it. If I don't, it's all right. I have chickens that'll use it if it's gone too far. And the advantage of harvesting when stuff is fresh in season, you're getting the ultimate food value. I think it's interesting too how when God's explaining to us how He provides for us, He says, "Consider the birds of the field." It's how they don't toil, they don't sweat, and I provide for them. Are you not of more value than them? And then he says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." And we look at all through nature. Everything in nature is not pressured, not under stress, and they eat everything fresh in season. It's all there for them, and they do wonderful. Where us, the most sophisticated of all the creation, stress out, and we don't eat good food, and we buy all this processed stuff, and we're thinking like, Jesus is trying to get our attention. Consider them. Pay attention. This is how it's supposed to work, and I care a lot more for you. And it's just, what I think is so sad is that God's made such an incredible provision for us. He's given us land. He's given us seed. He's given us, the sun, the rain. It's so easy to grow food, and it's so natural. It's what everybody's always done from the beginning of time until the Industrial Revolution. So we need to get back to the original and do it right.
Ever wonder what's this longing whispering at your heart, for the thing that you were meant for, but you don't know where to start? Father, can you hear me? I'm listening to you now, and I'm ready to trust you, to lead and guide me somehow. The creator of the universe concerns himself with me. He's passionately revealing his culture of love and of peace to Eden. Eden is the place of freedom. To Eden. Eden is the place of freedom, yeah. Your yoke is easy and your burden is light. Help me to lean on you the rest of my life. To Eden. Eden is the place of freedom.
Apples, the enzymes that cause them to ripen don't happen until 7 to 10 days before they get ripe. So all the apples that you're buying in the store, they're picked green, and the enzymes aren't there. They just don't show up. They look nice, they have nice color because they did the nitrogen fix and it looks good, but the enzymes that cause them to digest are not present. And so when you eat that apple, your body has to go salvage enzymes somewhere else in the body to digest the thing. So instead of this being a nutritional plus for you, it acts as a negative, and it's not really good. When the apple falls off the tree, it's usually pretty ripe. That's what I love about this arrangement. The trees are pretty low to the ground. The ground is soft. When they fall, they don't bruise. And the other advantage is that, in harvesting, you see when they harvest apples all at once, not all apples on the same tree are ripe all at once. They come on at different times, and then some are in more of a shady place, so they don't ripen as quick. And so if you pick them all, you're going to get some unripe ones. The advantage of coming out at your leisure, when they fall off, they're always ripe. And so you to have all the enzymes present, the full nutritional benefit that was in the apple.
Depending on what it is that you're growing, the nutrition comes with the color. And that's why, it's always been, known to eat a variety of colors and have a rainbow diet and all those kinds of things, is because there's different nutrients that are more prevalent with all those different colors. But the color doesn't ever come until it's right before it's ready to be picked. Unfortunately, the society and the culture that we live in, they are picking those things much before that nutrition is there, which is why I believe that a lot of the taste is not there. The sweetness and whatever that particular plant is prolific in. And I think that's really a big reason why people are not, big fans of eating vegetables in particular, is because of the taste.
I always say that plants that grow fast are sweet and tender. Things that grow slow are tough and bitter. When I used to grow stuff out here, they grow slow, they were tough and bitter. Now I plant stuff, man, it's up in a week, and just in 3 weeks it's just totally huge and beautiful. It's just amazing the difference. Well, I'm not I haven't been formally educated and I don't have a nutritional background, but I do have taste buds. And I notice other people do too. When they come to my place, I just love to have them sample my food, and the response of everybody is, that is so sweet. It's just, and see, listen, everything that God created, I believe, is sweet.
Very sweet.
That was very sweet.
They're so sweet.
And tastes so good.
This is good.
Isn't that good? Mm-hmm. I was a butt jerk in Marble Park.
That's good.
And see,
That's good.
They smell good.
These blueberries are really, really good.
And my gut feeling, intuitively, is that the nutritional value of food is relative to its flavor. If it tastes good, it is good. If it doesn't taste good, it's not good. And I come back to this good God that we serve. God is a good God, and He gave all of us a sweet tooth. We desire sweet. It's just innate. He didn't give us that to frustrate us and cause us to be, put on edge and say you can't have this. He gave it to us to satisfy and bless us because He's good. And I'm finding that in my garden, everything is sweet. It is all sweet. And it's so pleasing and satisfying. And I think I'm just beginning. I'm just basically on the edge, just approaching how God made food to taste. And it's just so wonderful. And I just tell you from experience, when you eat this, I eat this stuff all the time. I just out here grazing all day long. You have this sense of just overall feeling good. You have energy. You're not stuffed. You're not bloated. You don't get tired. I'm thinking like, this is how we're supposed to live. This is just right. And it's a result of eating this live food, fresh in season. And so I can't, come from a scientific place to analyze why this is better than store-bought, but I'm just telling you from how I feel and the flavor and the comments of everybody else is according to the flavor that I know this is way over the top.
Everything I've been eating is just delicious. It's amazing. It's packed with flavor. It just feels like it's the best food. It's so great.
Sweet, juicy, delicious.
This is the advantage of not watering.
Amazing.
This is fennel.
Isn't it delicious?
Isn't that amazing? How sweet it is? I mean, if you could get that.
Well, what I have in my yard isn't like that.
No, because look what it's growing in. This is my point. It's minerals that give flavor to food. And all of our soils today are so deficient because of chemical fertilizers, because of erosion, that minerals aren't present. But this stuff is just totally rich.
Well, this is the answer.
In everything, man. It's like over the top awesome. What I find interesting too is back in the 60s when they would analyze potatoes, for example, they had large amounts of vitamin A, vitamin D, all kinds of things that aren't in potatoes today. And it's because the soil back then had minerals, micronutrients, things that God created, which aren't in soils today because they're just fed chemicals. And the organic material is not going back in, and so the soil is deplete from all these wonderful things, and so the food is. And we wonder today, why we have all these autoimmune diseases and things that weren't even here 50 years ago. It's not because our bodies forgot how to heal. It's because our food is not good. We're not getting proper nutrition. And basically today, people are taking supplements because they're malnutrition. They're not getting in their food. And God created all this food for our bodies. I love Genesis, the first chapter, and I love the way it starts. And God said, fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts. This is what I made for your food.
It is so good to have these vegetables and the fruit, especially the figs, that make you feel, you don't need a medicine or anything. You just feed yourself with good stuff. And it has even a better flavor. When I have tasted Paul's vegetables, and like so many people, it has a sweeter flavor because it's not under stress. It grows with constant moisture, yeah. And this is the beautiful thing about it, you know, you not only help to make, again, a layer of fertile soil for the future generations. They have good soil there, it's not depleted. But you have also a vegetable that will nourish you. And it is published, you know, many places when you read the depleted soil isn't as good, so add your little vitamins in tablets. Forget it. If you can do this here, this mulching with the whole tree that's, you know, chipped up, that's the only way to go. Yeah.
In some rational future, people are going to wake up and say, this is not only a good way to eat, but it's a healthy way to live. And ultimately, when you start thinking about quality of life, if your kids are healthy and you got plenty to eat and you're leading a healthy lifestyle, man, the rest is just gravy, whatever else you do. So yeah, I think this has a significant potential to be a big part of the human future.
A lot of people mistake this place as a farm, and it's not a farm. This is a home where my family lives, where I raise my family, and I did this intentionally to have a place where they'd have a wonderful place to live, where we could grow all of our own food. And I purposely, just because of how God's given me this really wonderful revelation of how to grow things, and His whole economy is in giving and receive. I've just never been in any position where I wanted to sell anything. I just had no desire to, and I just have such pleasure in sharing and giving with people because I have such an abundance. There's plenty for all of us, kind of thing. And it's just fun for me to watch people just randomly come to my place, pick things and walk off, and you can't even tell they were here. And it's just such a wonderful feeling, you know. I just love it so much like God because it's just His nature to give, you know. And if we just get connected with Him and start doing things His way, we have an abundance. He provides us with all we need, and we have excess to give away and to bless other people. And it's just a great way to live. I love it.
I heard about this garden today from my friend Marcia Brees and her brother Mitch. So we took a notion to come up here, and it's been an incredible revelation. The gardening techniques are a revelation. As the owner was saying, they're so simple, so straightforward, so profound that many people overlook them. Gardening with compost, not using any water, and this is the result, is just a revelation to me.
Do you think that you would ever try this at home?
Immediately, in about 3 hours. Every herb and vegetable that he's grown in this garden is so flavorful, so pungent, so powerfully flavorful that I haven't tasted anything like it in a very long time. Certainly not in the supermarket.
And you don't see it this big in the store. This is not elephant garlic. This is Italian red.
Thank you.
And I want you to notice when you use it just how moist and nice it is.
Oh, yeah.
Totally awesome.
Oh, it's, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You know where I grew that?
No.
I got in my orchard underneath my tree.
Underneath the trees. This is gigantic garlic. It's perfect.
Here's why. You plant it in October.
We're amateur gardeners, and we're going to implement this stuff. I know we are. It all tasted really good. It's just all outrageous.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, when you drive up, that's why I put myself in front of this. The whole front row of this orchard is these dwarf apple trees with the wood sticking out the top. And it's magical. It looks like it's right out of a movie. It looks like I expected Alice in Wonderland to come bopping out any minute and say hello. And I told my son we're going to see a garden, and he's 10 and a half, going on 15. And like, oh, do we have to do that? And he just came up to me a little bit ago and he said, I'm glad we're here. Even he thinks it's cool. If it passes the test with him, it's okay. I've had, let's see, I've had a carrot, and I've had some cilantro, and probably the most shocking thing was the anise. It's literally sweet. At the end of the stem, the stem's good, which normally would be very tight, and at the end it's like eating a piece of candy. It's sweet. It's amazing. So he's turned me into a believer.
When I was studying sustainability, I was looking at what is it that would make a human ecosystem really sustainable. And Paul has another, besides his farming techniques, Paul has another quality that really is ultimately the ultimate sustainable value. And that is, he has a big heart, and he's generous, and he's helpful, and he's helping his neighbors out, and anybody that comes in here, help yourself. And that's the sort of attitude, if you really want a sustainable human culture, that's the kind of attitude that we really ought to be spreading. If the human species is ever going to be sustainable, it's going to be because of people like Paul. Not necessarily because of how he farms, but because of his heart.
Paul is an incredible individual. I mean, the things that he has been through and what he does and his knowledge about the garden is just absolutely incredible. And he's sent me quite a few people that have used our products, and he not only that, he's very honest. You know, I mean, when he talks to people, it's from his heart. It really is, and that's one thing I've always admired about him. Mm-hmm.
I just think he's incredibly giving in his knowledge, and I love the way that he presents it. You know, I tend to be a very low-key teacher, instructor, whatever it is I am with the community garden, and I kind of feel like I go, rah, 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 rah. You know, and don't have the volume and the enthusiasm behind what I say that Paul does. And he's just such a gift to all of us who meet him. He truly is, because of that enthusiasm. It's just wonderful. I would say Paul's evangelical in both definitions of the word, in terms of his religion and in terms of his expressiveness about what he believes. Both of those things. He's an evangelist. A garden evangelist.
God is so there for us. He so wants relationship. I always thought God put man in the garden for his health's sake. You know, get fresh food because it's close, kind of thing. But it's way more than that. It's about relationship. And when you're out in creation, if you're just semi-paying attention, you're hearing and seeing God. I love, you know, Psalm 19, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the earth shows his handiwork. Day and day utters speech, and night and night showeth knowledge, and there is no speech or language that voice is not heard. And I love it. When I'm outside here, I just am amazed at the things God shows me. And the thing that I discovered about God is that he's a lot like us. If you look in Genesis 1, or in the beginning when he created us, he said, let us make man in our own image after our own likeness. And many of you who are artists, you know how natural it is for you to want to share your art with people, because you're just really, you know that it's good and you're proud of it and you want to show it to people. Well, God is the ultimate artist. He's the master artist, and he's very proud of his artwork, and he likes to talk about it. And I find when I ask him questions about nature, he just is right there. Yeah, and let me tell you this, and let me show you this. It's just awesome. What I find so interesting about God's creation is so in line with the Word of God, because he's the author of both, and the creation and the Word are saying the same thing. They're revealing the beautiful nature of God and showing his handiwork, and they're totally synonymous. And I love it, because whenever I'm hearing from him, the Holy Spirit always brings scripture that verifies and validates what he's saying, and I know who I'm hearing from. I love the scripture. You know, Jeremiah says, call unto me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things you don't know. And then the verse in Proverbs, I think, is just so helpful. It says, trust in the Lord with your whole heart, but I'm not sure why. And he helps us to remember where our heart is. It's not here. He says, and lean not on your own understanding. He says, do not try to figure it out. And in all of your ways, and what does all leave out? In all of your ways, acknowledge God, and he'll direct your paths. Very simply, God's saying, he says, listen, when you have issues, ask me and trust me in your heart. Don't try to figure it out, and I'll show you what to do. When I come out here in the garden, I'll have issues and stuff, and I'll just ask God. I'll just give you a neat example. One day I had a bunch of people over here, and the guy noticed my potatoes over here, and he says, well, how come you don't hill your potatoes? In a typical garden or farm where you have potatoes, because as potatoes grow, they expand and they'll come to the surface, and when they surface, the light will hit them and turn them green and makes them toxic. So the farmers have to keep hilling up dirt to keep them covered, you know. I looked at my potatoes, and this is, well, the first answer that comes to mind is I don't need to. When I'll go in tonight and I'll ask my mentor and I'll get back with you. So I go in the house and says, now God, how come I don't have to heal my potatoes? And it was just so beautiful. It was like he took me underground and showed me a potato develop. He says, watch this potato, because the ground below it's compacted and it can't move down. As it expands, because dirt is heavy, it falls off the potato and the potato comes to the surface. And for that reason, they have to keep hilling dirt over it to keep it covered. But in your wood chips, because they're light and they're totally intermeshed together, when the potato expands, the wood chips just lift. And I looked at that, and I love his responses. And remember, I told you I did this so I wouldn't have to show up to work. Healing potatoes is work. And I just started laughing. Yes, God, you're so awesome. I always tell people when they question, whether this will work someplace or, it may work for you in a small place, but you couldn't do it on a big scale. It's just, or they have questions that, they can't fathom. It says, you know what the issue is here? You haven't taken into account an omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God who holds all things together by the word of his power. That's awesome. When you take that into account, there's no issues, and he's demonstrated. This is what I love. All through creation, it's demonstrated. It's not like this is hard to do. He's showing us in everything in creation how beautifully he does it because of his incredible, all-powerful, all-knowing, totally all-present capability. And I love that word. He holds everything together by the word of his power. Awesome God.
Ever wonder why you're working? Ever tire of researching? Oh, there's gotta be a better way. So you lift your hands up and pray. Father, can you hear me? I'm listening to you now. I'm ready to trust you, to lead and guide me somehow. The creator of the universe concerns himself with me. He's passionately revealing his culture of love and of peace to Eden. Eden is the place of freedom. To Eden. Eden is the place of freedom. Your yoke is easy, your burden is light. Help me to lean on you the rest of my life. To Eden. Eden is the place of freedom. Ever wonder what's this longing whispering at your heart for the thing that you were meant for, but you don't know where to start? Father, can you hear me? I'm listening to you now, and I'm ready to trust you, to lead and guide me somehow. The creator of the universe concerns himself with me. He's passionately revealing his culture of love and of peace to Eden. Eden is the place of freedom. To Eden. Eden is the place of freedom, yeah. Your yoke is easy and your burden is light. Help me to lean on you the rest of my life. To Eden.